Welcome to my channel Q Analysis, and today we are going to talk about Agile Test Strategy, how to formulate it, and what are the different components of Agile Test Strategy, and how can we get benefited out of it. So let's go. In today's agenda, we are going to cover few topics about QA, some terminology, traditional test practices, formulating a test strategy for our project, and iteration matrices. Now, iteration matrices is something which I would like to cover as a part of Agile strategy, because what we want to get out of this presentation is to formulate a strategy for Agile projects and how to measure it and how to see what kind of benefits are we getting as a result of those metrics. So we'll have Agile strategy and matrices to measure it. So let's go. Word on QA. QA, quality analysis, is a set of activities intended to ensure that product is satisfying customer requirements in a systematic and reliable fashion. So all of us from the quality community, we know that expected behavior and the actual behavior of the product or service should match. If at all there is any deviation, we call it as a defect or bug. In Scrum or Agile, QA is the responsibility of everyone. And when I say everyone, right away from business analysts who do research and the development team who do development, design team who do designing, plus quality team who do the quality stuff and take care of testing and its implementation. QA is all the activities we do to ensure the correctness, that is correct quality during the development of new product. Moving on to the next slide. Here we'll list down a few testing terminology. I hope most of you are aware of it, but still, for anybody who is joining this channel for the first time, I'd still like to repeat this in a very short and precise manner. Unit testing. Unit testing is nowadays mostly automated testing on the code level, which is executed every night or after every new code is added to verify no bug has been introduced as a part of development. And this is very much useful nowadays. If you want, you can see a separate video which I made for continuous integration, where I have shown the different steps which are involved in continuous integration. Unit testing is a very important step of that. Integration testing, when we have different modules and we want to work all those modules together and we want to see how is it working, want to test the quality, we integrate it, and post-integration, the kind of testing which is done is known as integration testing. Feature testing, I often call it as functional testing, is performed by QA when a feature is finished and implemented. System testing, the system as a whole, if it is meeting the requirements, business requirements to be precise, that is regarded as system testing. Exploratory testing, it is a very in and very hot form of testing which is very much required in market nowadays. I also have prepared a separate set of video on exploratory testing and its techniques. You can find the link in the description. Exploratory testing is simultaneous testing and learning. When you do a design, you do implementation, and you do the testing. There is no separate set of activities that we perform. We do everything together, and at the same time we try to figure out issues if at all find anything. Regression testing, when whole system is implemented and end to end we have to check that everything which was working earlier is working now and there is no side effect because of which any new bug has been introduced. That is known as regression testing. Retesting, if at all we have figured out any issue while any of this testing, unit integration, feature, functional, system, exploratory, smoke, ad hoc, or regression testing, then it is to be tested under bug fixing, which we call as retesting, and compatibility testing. Many of the time we have seen nowadays most of the software and operating system, they have different versions. Even for the web application, we have different servers, different versions. So Depending upon the different compatibility between the AMS application, web application, different kind of OS, different kind of platforms, we need to verify that the previous version and the new version which has been supported is working fine. Now moving on to our next slide, which is how traditional test practices evolved. Okay, I remember when I started testing maybe 12 or 13 years back. Yeah, over that point of time, we used to do testing in a software testing lifecycle pattern, which is known as traditional test practices. And then over there, we used to do a few things like, first of all, analyze the requirements, and then depending on the requirements, you go ahead and design the test cases. You take those test cases, get it reviewed, and then once you have the code and code is completed, it is handed over to the testers. They test it as per the test cases which they have already documented and which has been reviewed. Post that testing, they report the bugs which is fixed, and the whole process is repeated again. And finally, when you have something which is bug free, has no issue, it is released to the market. And testers, they provide sign off and it is released to the market. This is what used to be done as a part of traditional test practice. So let's move on to the next slide, which talks about agile testing and how do we test under agile. Since last 5 to 6 years, I could see there's a lot of shifting from traditional testing to agile testing. Now, agile testing is very much in, and the best part which I like about agile is that you can do testing and development together. It is pretty fast, and you always have a shippable product or a working product in your hand, which can be tested either by testers or which can be tested by product owners or maybe business owners or business users. So that is the best thing. You don't have to wait till the end in order to get a product which is working or which can be used and tested. Over here in Agile, we test in iterations. There are several iterations which we call as sprint. We test early as soon as, because as the code is being developed, then and there it is tested, and then it is using continuous integration, it is moved on. Again, it is tested via automation, and then once the build is ready, it is again tested by testers. Testers take more integrated, team-oriented approach than previous models, that is the traditional models. So over here, the testers, they have a very nice approach to play. If in case you're looking for any question or queries, what kind of role testers do play, feel free to comment into my video section or get in touch with me via LinkedIn. Post your questions and I'll be more than happy to solve it and provide your answers. So over here you can see we get an input from the customers, team managers, executives, or maybe user support, and all those inputs are recorded by product owner. Product owner, they prioritize the list. Okay, these are the requirements that we have to provide under this sprint or this cycle, and they are introduced into something which is known as product backlog. From this product backlog, depending upon the capacity of team and the priority of task, many of the items they are being selected, and then the team, they start to work on it. As soon as they start to work on it, it is known as sprint planning meeting, and all these decisions are taken over there. Each of the team member is assigned one or the other requirements which has user stories and which has some points estimation which is used for seeing the effort estimation for that requirement. The whole task is broken down, or whole sprint is broken down into several tasks, and a sprint backlog is created. Generally, a sprint is from 1 to 4 weeks of duration. This is Scrum Master. Most of the sprints, they may or may not be governed by a Scrum Master, because many places product owners or product managers, they also play the role of a Scrum Master. You don't need a separate Scrum Master for that. And over this time, 1 to 4 week sprint, they do the development in a way that each of the user stories is developed. It is tested first at the developer side, and then using continuous integration with the help of DevOps and automation testing, and then finally by the testing team, and using daily stand-up meeting, everybody they put in the kind of efforts and the status, what they are doing, what they have done yesterday, what they are planning to do today, and what is they plan to do tomorrow. Post the development testing, if the product looks good, there is a sprint review where they check and the final product is then verified, the quality sign-off is provided, and it is moved ahead the release version or to the production where business users can go ahead and use it, test it, and post the completion of all the steps in Agile environment. There is a sprint retrospective meeting where everybody from development, designing, project management, as well as the testing team, they sit together and they discuss what went right and what went wrong, what are the things which can be improved, plus what are the accomplishments. So everything is discussed over there. Let's move on to the next slide, which talks about test strategy outline. What is test strategy? Test strategy is a document, or let's say test strategy is something which helps the testing team to figure out in which direction they want to go, what should be their approach, what they want to do, and what they want to achieve, what are the methods that should be used. So, to say in short, what is test strategy? Test strategy is a document which outlines what is a testing team's approach, or what should be a testing team's approach in order to figure out the desired outcomes. Like, what are your outcomes? What do you want to achieve out of your testing? What is your testing objective? And how you are going to achieve it? Everything which you have to do in order to achieve your testing objectives, that is mentioned under test strategy. Okay, so test strategy in Agile environment has 4 components. First, release planning, which will be more or less like a test plan, and then second is each sprint, the sprint QA activities, the QA activities in every sprint, hardening sprint, system test, and release QA activities. Let's see what are the QA activities in release planning stage. Release planning, you can see there is a roadmap, product roadmap, which has several kind of release scheduled for it. Release 1, release 2, and release 3, and so on. Each of these releases is then divided into several set of sprints, sprint 1, sprint 2, and so on. And each of these sprint has set of tasks depending on the priority and the criticality. So first of all, under release planning, we have to create test plans. High level test planning is to be done, and then budget to see the total effort, time, the resources, the money you have which you can utilize for such kind of testing. Participate in story sizing, user story sizing I mean. And then typical test plan for this Agile strategy will include scope of testing, new functionalities that will be tested, types and level of testing based upon the complexity of feature being tested, performance or load testing, or any kind of non-functional testing, infrastructure consideration, the kind of test environment or the versions of software that needs to be tested, risk and mitigation plan, resourcing, that is the resource who will be testing it, and any kind of management or leadership which is required. And finally, the most important is milestone and deliverables, the timelines. So these are the most important components of a release planning. Moving on to the next step. Here we talk about each sprint. Over here, QA need to participate, or every member in QA need to understand the sprint planning, estimate the QA task, what would be their input and what is the expected output from them, what is the expectation of team and management from each QA, write test cases using user stories with certain acceptance criteria, high level of test cases before coding begins, And then detailed test cases are written during the coding. Unit and integration testing. It can be done with the help of developers. Automatic test cases are generated or developed on code level, and every time whenever there is a commit of code, these automated test cases are being executed using CI or continuous integration. Pair testing, dev and QA together can perform pair programming and pair testing, so they can figure out which feature is being developed and what are different kind of. It's always a good idea, right? Like developers, they think from the developer's point of view, and testers, they think from the tester's point of view. So together, if both of them, they are working, like developer with a approach of building and QA with an approach of breaking, then I guess that is a very nice and deadly combination to have. Feature test, QA is responsible to perform feature testing as soon as the feature implementation is complete. The whole feature is to be tested to figure out if at all there are any unexpected exceptions or unexpected errors or anything in the requirement which is not being considered or any deviation. So all of these things are to be figured out by QA and to be reported to the development team, and then it will be prioritized depending upon the criticality. And then review of the stories, requirement, user stories, requirement, test cases with customer, programmer, developer, and the lead. So it increases the kind of collaboration and communication among the QA team as well as the other members of the development team and the project team. So everybody is on the same page. Communication is one of the very important things which has to be followed strictly in Agile projects. Then we come to the each sprint continue. So as you can see in this diagram, we have sprint, over sprint, and this is the way Agile works. So every time we have a development schedule, in that development schedule we have the most priority or the most critical items being developed. As soon as they are ready to be tested, first they are tested by unit testers or developers using unit testing, then using integration, continuous integration, again it is tested, and then once we have a build, an active build, it is tested by testers and finally by customers, and then we provide a shippable working product. So automate new feature and test cases, run automated test cases, and then perform non-functional testing. That's also a very important part to do. Doing load testing, security testing, usability testing, and any kind of non-functional testing. Demo to the stakeholders, which can be anybody from the project management team as well as from the user team. So a working model with all kind of testing being done with the kind of outputs, and we'll share the different kind of matrices which will be represented or shown to our management or to the users. I'll talk about it in my upcoming slides. Yeah, so moving on to our next slide, which is about hardening sprint. Over here we'll talk about hardening of sprint. Means any kind of bugs that have been figured out or that have been detected as a part of previous sprint, they can be prioritized and can be considered over here. This is the end of game, I say end of system testing. Every member in the team is involved in this process. So everybody from QA point of view, they are ready to see the mock deploy on staging, smoke testing on staging, and then perform non-functional testing just to make sure that it is working fine in terms of load testing, performance testing, security, usability. Complete regression test has to be executed. There shouldn't be any kind of deviation, and then user acceptance testing. Plus all different kind of testing such as compatibility, database upgrades, or maybe software version upgrades, installation, localization. These are different kind of testing which are to be done when we say hardening of a sprint. So it's like the final thing which you're gonna deliver. Just make sure everything is intact and working fine. The next one is called release. So in release we define the exit criteria. which is the most important part to be taken care of, depending upon the definition of done or acceptance criteria, which has been defined initially when the requirements they have been decided or divided into under the category of user stories. So all of them, they had a definition of done and exit criteria defined to it. Testing activities, bug severity, open bug coverage, matrix, everything has to be in sync with that exit criteria. Product artifacts like user guide, installation guide, and any other documentation should be in place. And then everybody has to participate in the retrospective so as to they know where they started, where they stopped, and what kind of obstacles or achievements was there, and when to continue and when to stop. It also ends with the software release notification, so everybody involved receives the software release notification, and hence the final product is released out to production. Now let's talk about what is the point of making test strategy and how can we measure that we are getting desired benefits out of it. So as I already said, this strategy, it talks about your approach, how you are going to achieve your objectives, and then it can be measured using iteration matrix. There are certain kind of matrices which are being used to enhance predictability and then to figure out whether you are heading in the right direction, and then your strategy or test strategy is taking you towards the right testing goal. So we measure the progress, what is the progress and in which direction it is going. You can check it out through the burn down chart. So depending upon your effort and the kind of work you are completing, you can see how many requirements they are burned down in how many percentage, and in this way you can predict when would be your most probable end date, and there is estimated what's your actual time for task, and hence you can see the delta or the deviation. The other matrix is defect matrix. So there are two kind of defects matrix which would be considered good for, like how many defects were raised by testing team and how many defects which were raised actually hold valid, like they were valid and not rejected by the development team. For example, you can raise 100 bugs and out of 100 bugs you get in a critical or 90 or not, or maybe the kind of defects that you raised they're not up to the standard, or maybe they are not relevant in the same sprint. So defect matrix will help you to figure out what is the relevancy, what is the priority critical indicator, how is the testers performing and how are they doing. The last one is traceability matrix. Even in the standard testing practices, we always use the traceability matrix. This is one of the most important matrices that should be taken care of, which help you to identify the test coverage, user stories versus test cases, or the testing that has been performed, and code coverage. So now you know all those user stories or requirements that have been included in the sprint, whether they are actually covered through your testing, and all the code that has been generated is covered via testing. This is very important. So these are the three matrices which I suggest everybody in the Agile testing team to keep a note of, and then it will help you to figure out whether you're going in the right direction, you're raising the right kind of defects are not being rejected, and then how is the coverage going on, the test coverage and the requirement which are developed, they are being tested properly and thoroughly, and you're not missing on anything. If you follow these three things, and if you try to maintain a proper matrix and do your homework, keep on working in order to maintain the proper kind of matrices, the results, keep checking it and use it for your team benefit. I guess it is really very helpful and it's a very nice strategy to be implemented in your team. I hope this presentation would give you some kind of good points and help you and your team to implement agile testing strategy and approach so that you can get the desired benefits. Thanks a lot. Thank you for watching my video, and please feel free to share, like and subscribe my channel, and I look forward to meet you again in my next presentation. Thank you. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.